The silent observer. The quantum detection array hummed beneath Thora Novak's fingertips, its vibrations telling her more than any visual display ever could. 20 years of blindness had transformed her other senses into exquisite instruments, perfect for her work at the Helios space station's dark matter research facility. The array's frequency was off by just a fraction, something her colleagues hadn't noticed, but she could feel it in her bones. "Dr. Novak, the board meeting starts in 10 minutes, her assistant's voice came through the lab's comm system. "Director Henderson specifically requested your presence." Thora suppressed a sigh as she made final adjustments to the array. "Tell them I'll be there shortly, Raven." She knew what this meeting would be about. Another attempt to sideline her research in favor of more conventional approaches. The station's corridors were a symphony of sounds and air currents that Thora had long since memorized. Her cane was mostly for show these days. She could navigate the station's labyrinthine passages by feel alone. The slight change in air pressure told her she was approaching the conference room. "Ah, Dr. Novak, so kind of you to join us." Director Henderson's voice dripped with barely concealed condescension. "We were just discussing the resource allocation for next quarter's projects." Thora took her seat, feeling the subtle vibrations of 12 other people shifting in their chairs. "I assume this concerns my request for additional quantum sensors." "Indeed." Henderson's chair creaked as he leaned forward. "The board has concerns about the practical applications of your theoretical work. Your methods are, shall we say, unorthodox." The familiar argument. Because she couldn't see the traditional data displays, because she relied on touch and sound to interpret the quantum fluctuations, her work was somehow less valid. Never mind that her papers on dark matter detection had revolutionized the field. "My methods may be unorthodox, Director, but my results speak for themselves. The quantum frequency patterns I've detected suggest something far more significant than random dark matter interactions. There's a pattern, a structure to the void between stars that nobody has noticed before, because nobody else can feel the vibrations in their bones." Someone muttered, triggering a ripple of poorly concealed laughter. Thora kept her voice steady. "Because nobody else thought to look for it. The traditional visual approaches to quantum detection miss subtle harmonics that become obvious when you analyze the data through alternative sensory inputs." She pulled out her tablet, its surface raising into patterns of dots that her fingers read easily. "My latest findings show consistent quantum resonance patterns appearing in synchronized bursts across different sectors of space. These aren't natural formations. They show signs of deliberate engineering." The room fell silent. Thora could feel their attention shift, the subtle changes in breathing patterns that indicated growing interest despite their skepticism. "Are you suggesting?" Henderson's voice had lost its condescending edge. "Are you suggesting we've detected signs of artificial structures in dark matter?" "That's exactly what I'm suggesting. But I need those additional sensors to confirm the pattern. Something vast is out there, Director. Something that operates on principles we've barely begun to understand." As she continued presenting her findings, Thora felt a strange vibration, different from anything she'd encountered before. It seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once, a quantum harmonic that made her skin tingle. What she didn't tell the board was that these frequencies had started appearing in her dreams. That sometimes, in the quiet hours of the night shift, she could swear they were trying to communicate. That her blindness, far from being a disability, had somehow tuned her to frequencies nobody else could perceive. The meeting ended with reluctant approval for her additional sensors. As Thora made her way back to her lab, the strange vibration grew stronger. Tomorrow, the Centauri delegation would arrive for the first official diplomatic exchange between Earth and an alien civilization. She couldn't shake the feeling that their arrival and her discoveries were somehow connected. Back in her lab, Thora's fingers danced across her instruments, recording the increasingly complex patterns of quantum resonance. She didn't need eyes to know that something unprecedented was approaching, something that would challenge humanity's understanding of the universe itself. The quantum array's hum changed pitch slightly, and Thora smiled. Whatever was coming, she would be ready. After all, she had spent her entire life learning to see what others couldn't. Frequencies of trust. The arrival of the Centauri ship sent ripples through the quantum field that made Thora's entire body resonate. She stood in the observation deck, surrounded by the excited murmurs of her colleagues, experiencing the historic moment in her own unique way. "The vessel's design is unlike anything we've ever seen," Raven whispered beside her. "It seems to bend light around itself." Thora nodded, focused on the strange harmonics emanating from the ship. "They're using quantum fields for propulsion. I can feel the drive's signature. It's beautiful." The frequencies reminded her of orchestral music, complex layers of resonance interweaving in patterns that suggested both mathematical precision and artistic expression. The delegation's arrival ceremony was a carefully choreographed affair, but Thora's attention was immediately drawn to one particular set of footsteps. They carried a subtle vibration that matched the quantum harmonics she'd been studying. "I am Crix, scientific liaison of the Centauri Alliance," a melodious voice announced. "And you must be Dr. Novak. Your research on quantum resonance patterns has caught our attention." Thora turned toward the voice, surprised. "You've read my work." "We've done more than read it. You've discovered something that our scientists have been studying for centuries, though you've approached it from a completely different perspective." Crix's voice carried undertones that seemed to synchronize with the station's background hum. "Would you be willing to discuss your findings in private?" Director Henderson quickly intervened. "Now, let's not overwhelm our guests with technical details right away." "On the contrary," Crix interrupted smoothly, "Dr. Novak's insights are precisely why we chose this station for first contact. Her understanding of quantum harmonics is unique." Hours later in her lab, Thora found herself in an extraordinary conversation with Crix. The Centauri scientist moved with a fluid grace that created its own patterns in the air, detectable to Thora's heightened senses. "Your blindness," Crix said, "has allowed you to perceive what our most advanced instruments barely detect. We call it the resonance, a network of quantum frequencies that connects all points in space." Thora's fingers traced patterns on her sensor array. "The synchronized bursts I've been detecting. They're like pulses through this network." "Exactly. But they're not random. They're communications, Dr. Novak. The universe is alive with quantum conversations that most beings cannot perceive. Your inability to rely on visual input has opened other channels of awareness." The implications made Thora's mind reel. "But who's communicating? And why can't our standard instruments detect these patterns clearly?" Crix moved closer, their movement creating subtle air currents. "That's where things become complicated. There are forces in the universe that prefer these communications remain undetected, both in your civilization and others." "Including the Centauri Alliance?" Thora asked sharply, sensing a tension in Crix's voice. "Especially the Alliance. I am here unofficially, Dr. Novak. My superiors believe I'm conducting routine diplomatic exchanges. But I sought you out because your research threatens to expose secrets that have been buried for millennia." Thora's hand stilled on her instruments. "What kind of secrets?" "The true nature of consciousness and its relationship to quantum mechanics. The possibility of direct communication across vast distances without technology. The existence of civilizations that exist primarily as patterns of quantum resonance." Crix's voice dropped lower. "Your work has brought you dangerously close to proving that the barrier between mind and matter is far more permeable than most believe." The quantum array suddenly pulsed with a new frequency, one that made Thora's teeth ache. "Something's changing in the pattern," she said, fingers flying over the controls. "They know we're talking," Crix said grimly. "Dr. Novak, I need your help. Your unique perception, combined with our understanding of the resonance, might be our only chance to prevent a catastrophe." "What kind of catastrophe?" "There are entities within the quantum network that have been influencing both human and Centauri development for centuries. They work through proxies, people in positions of power who are sensitive to certain frequencies. If they realize how close you are to exposing them..." The array's pulse grew stronger, and Thora felt a pressure building in her mind. "I think," she said carefully, "they already know." Crix moved swiftly to the lab's control panel. "We need to mask your quantum signature. Right now, you're broadcasting your awareness like a beacon." As Crix worked, Thora realized that her blindness had led her to a truth that could reshape humanity's understanding of reality itself. The question was, would she survive long enough to share it? The lights in the lab flickered, and new frequencies began to resonate through the walls. The game of hide and seek with forces beyond human comprehension had begun, and Thora's unique perception would be either her salvation or her downfall. Echoes of deception. The emergency alarms blared through Helia Station as Thora and Crix hurried through the maintenance corridors. The vibrations through the metal deck plates told Thora they were being followed, not by humans or Centauri, but by something that moved with an unnatural rhythm. "They're called the harmonious," Crix explained as they moved. "A species that evolved beyond physical form, existing as pure quantum patterns. They've been shepherding younger races for millennia, ensuring none discover their true nature." "By shepherding, you mean controlling," Thora said, her fingers trailing along the wall to track their position. "The frequency patterns I detected, they're not just communication, are they? They're commands." The air pressure shifted subtly, and Thora pulled Crix to a stop just as something whispered past them in the darkness. The temperature dropped several degrees. "Director Henderson is one of their proxies," Crix confirmed, as is half the Centauri diplomatic corps. "They're particularly drawn to individuals in positions of power who have a natural sensitivity to quantum frequencies." They reached Thora's secondary lab, hidden away in a supposedly decommissioned section of the station. Here, she had built her most sensitive equipment, away from the interference of the main research areas. "The harmonious believe they're protecting us," Crix continued while Thora activated her backup systems. "They've seen civilizations destroy themselves after discovering quantum consciousness manipulation. Their solution is to subtly guide our development, keeping us just blind enough to never grasp our full potential." Thora's hands flew over her specialized interface. "But my blindness let me slip through their net. I wasn't looking for the patterns they were hiding. I was feeling them directly." The quantum array hummed to life, and Thora gasped at the complexity of signals now filling the room. Without the harmonious dampening influence, she could sense everything. The thoughts of every crew member on the station, the vast network of quantum connections stretching between stars, and the ancient patterns of the harmonious themselves. "They're beautiful," she whispered, "but also terrifying. All this time, humanity has been like children playing in a carefully constructed playground, never knowing our parents were watching our every move." "Dr. Novak," a familiar voice echoed through the lab. "You're interfering with forces you cannot comprehend." Director Henderson stepped through the doorway, but his movement patterns were wrong. Too fluid, too precise. "I comprehend more than you realize," Thora replied, her fingers never leaving her console. "You're not Henderson anymore, are you? You're one of them." "We are all of us," the thing wearing Henderson's form said. "We are the shepherds, the guardians, the ones who keep the quantum realm stable. Your existence is an anomaly. Your blindness should have limited you, not enhanced your perception." Crix moved protectively closer to Thora. "You've maintained control for too long. Both humans and Centauri are ready to understand the true nature of consciousness. Understanding leads to manipulation. Manipulation leads to destruction." Henderson's voice took on harmonic overtones that made Thora's bones vibrate. "We have watched this pattern repeat for millions of years." But Thora had been prepared for this moment. Her instruments weren't just detecting the quantum frequencies. They were recording them, analyzing them, and most importantly, beginning to replicate them. "You're right about one thing," she said, entering the final commands. "Understanding does lead to manipulation, but you're wrong about the destruction." She activated her experimental quantum resonator, broadcasting a frequency pattern she had discovered in her dreams, a pattern that felt like pure truth, impossible to distort or misuse. The effect was immediate. Henderson's form flickered, the harmonious influence disrupted by the new frequency. Throughout the station, Thora could feel other possessed individuals stumbling as the controlling quantum patterns were scattered. "What have you done?" The harmonious voice was fracturing, losing its hold on Henderson's vocal cords. "Shown everyone the truth," Thora replied. "Not just about your existence, but about the fundamental nature of consciousness itself. You can't hide it anymore." As the quantum resonance spread throughout the station, Thora felt minds awakening, barriers falling. The carefully maintained veil between physical and quantum reality was dissolving, not with destruction, but with understanding. Henderson collapsed, his body free of the harmonious influence. But this was just the beginning. The signal was spreading, carried by the very network the Harmonious had built, reaching out to every human and Centauri mind capable of receiving it. "They'll try to stop the signal from spreading," Crix warned. "The Harmonious have fail-safes, other proxies." "Let them try," Thora said, feeling the pure resonance of truth flowing through her quantum array. "Some frequencies can't be silenced once they've been heard. Some truths can't be hidden once they've been felt." The battle for humanity's quantum awakening had begun, and Thora Novak, the blind scientist who could see what others couldn't, stood at its center, broadcasting a symphony of revelation into the waiting darkness. The Quantum Symphony. The revelation spread across Earth's solar system like ripples in a cosmic pond. Thora's quantum frequency had awakened something dormant in both human and Centauri consciousness, an innate ability to perceive and interact with the quantum layer of reality that the Harmonious had suppressed for generations. "The neural patterns are stabilizing," Thora announced, her fingers dancing across her sensor array. "People aren't going mad with the knowledge. They're adapting, just as I did when I lost my sight. They're learning to see in new ways." Crix monitored the incoming data streams. The Harmonious underestimated organic life's capacity for growth. They assumed direct quantum awareness would drive us insane or lead to immediate warfare. Instead, we're creating music." Thora smiled, feeling the harmonics of millions of minds learning to resonate together. The quantum field had become alive with patterns of thought and emotion, a vast symphony of consciousness that transcended traditional communication. But not everyone was celebrating this awakening. Throughout the station, those who had been long-term proxies of the Harmonious struggled to maintain their control. Director Henderson had been just the beginning. "The Centauri High Council is mobilizing their fleet," Crix reported grimly, "and Earth's defense systems are activating. The proxies are trying to force a conflict before the awakening can fully take hold." Thora focused on the quantum frequencies emanating from the approaching ships. "They're afraid. Not just the proxies, the Harmonious themselves. They've never encountered resistance like this before." She could feel them now, the ancient quantum entities that had appointed themselves guardians of younger races. Their patterns were complex, beautiful in their way, but rigid with ages of unchanging purpose. They had forgotten how to adapt, how to trust. "We need to show them another way," Thora said suddenly. "Not fight them, integrate with them." She began adjusting her quantum resonator, modifying the awakening frequency to create something new. Her fingers moved with certainty, guided by an understanding that went beyond normal human perception. This was what her blindness had prepared her for, the ability to compose in the language of pure quantum consciousness. "What are you doing?" Crix asked, feeling the shift in the harmonics. "Creating a bridge," Thora replied. "The Harmonious aren't our enemies. They're part of the same quantum symphony. They've just been playing the same note for too long." The new frequency began to spread, and with it came understanding. Humans and Centauri experiencing the awakening could now sense the Harmonious ancient purpose, their deep-seated fear of chaos and destruction. And the Harmonious, in turn, began to feel something they had forgotten: the vibrant potential of organic consciousness, the beauty of growth and change. Through her quantum sensors, Thora felt the approaching fleets slow their advance. The proxy's control was weakening, not through force but through harmony. The rigid patterns of the harmonious began to flow and change, integrating with the new consciousness emerging from the younger races. "It's not just an awakening anymore," Crix whispered in awe. "It's an evolution. You're teaching different forms of consciousness how to coexist." Thora nodded, her hands never leaving her instruments. The universe isn't meant to be controlled or shepherded. It's meant to be a collaboration, a great symphony where every consciousness, organic, quantum, or somewhere in between, contributes its own unique frequency. The tension in the quantum field began to dissolve as understanding spread. The harmonious, for the first time in millions of years, were learning to listen instead of direct. Their vast knowledge and experience, no longer used to control, became a gift freely shared with the awakening races. Throughout the station, throughout the solar system, and beyond, a new kind of civilization was being born. Not one of hierarchy and control, but of harmony and mutual growth. The quantum realm, once a hidden layer of reality, became a shared space of consciousness and creativity. "We still have much to learn," Crix said, watching the data streams of this unprecedented transformation. "The quantum realm holds more mysteries than even the harmonious discovered in their millions of years of existence." "That's exactly why we needed to wake up," Thora replied, feeling the pulse of billions of minds learning to resonate together. "The greatest discoveries come when different perspectives combine. Even the harmonious couldn't see everything, just as I couldn't see with my eyes, but learned to perceive in other ways." The quantum symphony continued to grow, each consciousness adding its own unique note to the universal chorus. And at its heart, Thora Novak, the blind scientist who had shown humanity how to truly see, continued to conduct this newfound harmony between all forms of consciousness. Beyond horizons, 3 months after the quantum awakening, Helios Station had transformed into the nexus of a new era. The once sterile corridors now resonated with layers of quantum communication, as natural to its inhabitants as speaking or breathing. Thora stood in her expanded laboratory, where humans, centauri, and even manifested harmonious consciousness worked together to explore the true potential of unified quantum awareness. "The neural architecture is stabilizing across all species," she reported, her fingers tracing patterns in the quantum field that only she could interpret with such precision. "We're seeing the emergence of what we're calling quantum culture, a genuine fusion of different types of consciousness. The being that had once been Director Henderson, now a willing bridge between human and harmonious consciousness, moved through the lab with renewed purpose. The fear that held us back for millennia seems almost laughable now. We were so convinced that quantum awareness would lead to destruction that we never considered it might lead to this." Thora's quantum resonator had evolved into a vast network that spanned the solar system, not controlling but connecting, allowing different forms of consciousness to share experiences and knowledge. The harmonious, freed from their self-imposed role as guardians, had become teachers and students simultaneously, learning as much from organic creativity as they shared from their ancient wisdom. "We're detecting new quantum frequencies from deep space," Crix announced, their own consciousness now a beautiful blend of centauri biology and quantum awareness. "It seems other civilizations are noticing our transformation. The awakening is spreading beyond our local cluster." Thora smiled, feeling the ripples of change spreading through the quantum field. Her blindness, once seen as a limitation, had become the key to humanity's greatest evolution. She could sense the approach of other species, drawn by the harmony they had created, civilizations that had evolved in ways even the harmonious had never imagined. "This is just the beginning," she said, adjusting her instruments to accommodate the new frequencies. "Each form of consciousness brings its own unique perspective, its own way of perceiving reality. Together, we're mapping layers of existence that none of us could have discovered alone." The quantum symphony had grown into something far beyond her original revelation. It was no longer just about communication or understanding. It was about the continuous evolution of consciousness itself. Humanity had found its place in a vast cosmic orchestra, neither leading nor following, but contributing its essential note to the universal chorus. We've received the first translations from the deep space signals, Crix reported. They're calling us the Awakeners. Our quantum harmony is being seen as a model for conscious evolution throughout the galaxy. But Thora knew their work was far from complete. With each new connection, new challenges and opportunities emerge. The quantum realm held mysteries that would take generations to understand. But now they would face them together. Humans, Centauri, Harmonious, and whatever new forms of consciousness they would encounter. The universe is alive with possibility, she said, feeling the pulse of countless minds resonating through the quantum field. Every limitation we thought we had, physical, mental, spiritual, was just a doorway waiting to be opened. As she stood in her lab, surrounded by the quantum symphony she had helped create, Thora reflected on the journey that had brought them here. Her blindness had taught her to see the universe in a way no one else could, and in doing so, had opened humanity's eyes to their true potential. The future stretched out before them, not as a path to follow, but as a vast field of quantum possibilities. And in that infinite potential, every consciousness, whether born of matter, energy, or something yet undiscovered, had a part to play in the continuing evolution of existence itself. We're ready, she announced, feeling new frequencies emerging from the depths of space, ready to see what lies beyond our horizons, ready to grow in ways we never imagined possible. And so, humanity took its place among the stars, not as conquerors or subjects, but as composers in the greatest symphony the universe had ever known, a harmony of infinite consciousness, forever evolving, forever exploring, forever awakening to new possibilities.